You're listening to the Who is Christine Anyway podcast season 2. Today's special guest is author, educator, and generally really nice guy, Tom Guzzio. Enjoy.
One of the things I'm really happy about is, I'm probably a few years away from retirement, and I still enjoy it. I still feel like I'm doing it for the right reasons. I still look forward to seeing the kids, even the ones that drive me fucking bananas. So yeah, I mean, it was probably a good call. All those years ago.
The ones that drive you bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were they the ones that took their studying? Okay, way to grow English student. Studying.
Contagious.
It is. They're studying way too seriously. Like they came in and they were like, and it's not like really kind of like good obsessive. It's almost like, like kind of like eerie obsessive, or is it the ones that were just utter class clowns that just drive you insane? You're like, I'm trying to get a goddamn sense out and it's not coming.
No, I mean, the ones who were serious, like whatever. I mean, they had a goal. They wanted a grade. And I wouldn't try to stand in their way of getting what they wanted to accomplish accomplished. No, the ones who would drive me bananas would be the ones who wouldn't recognize the potential within themselves that I would see. Those are the ones who would really freaking annoy me. No, I mean the quote unquote tryhards, I mean the ones who we like to, as a society, kind of like to beat down a little bit because they're, vanilla. No, they were fine. I mean, I like those kids too.
It's funny too, though, because it's like, I don't even think to beat them down, because especially now as I've gotten older, I've got my 4 daughters and each one of them is extremely different.
Mm-hmm.
But very similar, but very different. And I like, I've got to try hard in there too. And I understand her trying hard is actually her way of coping with like advanced amounts of stress in different ways, like different emotions, different situations and scenarios. So, or if she just needed some sort of release, and she doesn't, I don't want to say she doesn't possess an artistic talent. She has artistic talent for sure, but there's no doubt in it. But at that moment, it's like, this is what I'm fixated on. This is what I need to do. And this is just so I don't have to feel about it, so I can later process it when it's rational versus when it's irrational.
See, it's funny that you say that, because, I think a lot of those kids, I mean, I don't want to, like they shouldn't be punished because they have supportive parents at home,
right?
Because most of them do.
Mm-hmm.
They have a
I think they just need to be understood.
Yeah, and frankly, like, I think, I mean, you might have touched on something. I'm trying to think of a few kids. Like, I know a few kids who did well in school because that was the one area of their life they could control. The one area of life where they did feel like, they could kind of define who they were.
Mm-hmm.
The class clowns don't bother me. I don't know. I mean, probably because I'm a pretty big clown myself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's so funny too, because especially knowing like the kids in the graduating class that I had. And of course, like when we grew up, it was different. I was born in 87. So growing up and going through elementary school in the 90s, it was, punishment systems were way different back then. And I remember one of the kids they were talking about earlier, he was turned around and he was talking, and the teacher was like, hey, and he didn't listen. And he picked up an eraser and like hucked it. And the kid happened to turn right around just in time and went poof, like right in his face, and like chalk dust all over the room. And I'm like, what an era to be alive. Or like the other teacher who flipped the desk in middle school, just like literally just flipped the desk. And I'm like, that does not teach me to be relaxed. Like that is like,
no.
don't get me wrong, I will not be talking, which is kind of one of those things they're like, well, you never participate. And I'm like, quite terrified, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't feel like this is a safe space.
Yeah.
I don't think that would fly. That definitely would not fly in this day and age.
Oh
God, no.
Not even close. Not even close. Like,
no.
My kids come home with their like school handbook now, and I love their school district. They're pretty good in there. And I'm like, there's 13 steps before anybody's got internal suspension. I had 3 days. In 30 days. Like, it was like knowing I was on the Green Mile. Like, it's gonna happen. You got 3 days, and this is like 13 steps. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You gotta, and it's like, we're gonna give you a warning about a warning, and then we're gonna warn you about that warning again. And I'm like, run this by me. And they're like, well, by 7 they should know. And I'm like, what's 7? They're like, the warning of the 6 warnings. And I'm like, this sounds like some Game of Thrones series that I am not ready for. Like,
well, I think a lot of I'm not in a quote unquote traditional school anymore, but like the last couple of years when I was, some of the frustration that the staff had, particularly post-COVID, is just how kids could do whatever they want with impunity. And I'm like, well, yeah, they kind of can. Because, they don't want to be in your class. They would rather be sitting in suspension. And it's
guilty. Like, I was that kind of kid, and it was like way back before COVID. It was just, it's less stress. There's less noise. Does that make sense? Less peripheral noise. And I know you're in like a non-traditional school now, but like being in a traditional school myself, it was just, it's so much noise. And they're like, well, you're not taking enough notes. So you're not doing enough this. And I'm like, you're making me really not want to. Like, it's just one of those things where, but then they would put me in that little room. And I mean, you've seen that room. There was never a window in that room. There was 3 desks and 1 big desk. And that was it. It was just, I don't even think there was airflow in there. Which,
probably not.
No, sometimes if you're alone, it was interesting if you had somebody in there with you. Like, it depended, like whatever teachers would rotate through. Mm-hmm. It really depended. Some would sit there and talk to you. Other times they wouldn't talk, and they would like stare at you. But I could get all my classwork done within like an hour and a half, because I could read at my own rates. I could do my own stuff if I needed help. That's what that was. It was just, I don't know, it seemed less noisy and less stuffy. But then COVID happened, and I think COVID really helped some kids shine. And I really think COVID really kind of crippled some in that sense of, understanding. And it took me, and I mean, I'm 37 now. So it took me, oh my gosh, well into my 20s, well, almost into 30s, really, when I started to realize that learning is not the actual thing itself. It's the process of. It's the process of. It's the, that was the thing where it's like, I failed every quarter in your class, I think. But I passed. Did I pass? I think I passed the finals. Or maybe I just passed by just narrowly. Like, I never did my homework.
That might have been about right.
Like, just narrowly. But I never did my homework. But I was good in tests. I would give myself that. Which it's got to be confusing. Like, I
was never one. I mean, for one thing, like, I would always try to. I was a classic, like, I don't give you grades, you earn them. That was always kind of like my thing.
So Downton Abbey.
I know. Thank you very much.
This is the earldom of English.
So there was a kid in your class, little shit.
That really narrowed it down.
And he. First year, he was a couple years older than you, actually, because I had you a freshman. And he must have been one of my juniors, and he failed by the skin of his teeth. Mm-hmm. And his mom got pissed and blah blah blah. Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was like, I wasn't going out of my way to fail him or anything. That's just how the numbers played out. This is the work he did. These are the grades he earned. That's the grade he got. And Goldman dragged me into his office, and he was like, if you're going to fail somebody, you need to really fail them. Like, I shouldn't have a parent coming in here arguing with me over a point. And I'm like, but that's what he got, sir. If you fail him, you have to really fail them. Oh, he was like,
I
make
won't
it
even
so there's
begin to
no
tell you how
argument.
fucked that is.
Well, that was my introduction into the idea of like, okay, so part of this job isn't necessarily about
No,
integrity
it's
and honesty. It's about
socioeconomic status and
well,
yeah.
I
Integral
I don't even
needs.
think
But you don't have to say it. I did, so it's
it,
cool.
it wasn't that. This wasn't one of the privileged kids.
But I mean, but why would I know? But why would he be like when you
This
really have
was
to fail them? Like
because he wanted to be able to tell the parent, "There's nothing I can do. Your kid really screwed up." And by leaving just that one point of wiggle room, it was like leaving the door open a bit. And I had to give the kid another assignment. I had to grade it over the summer. I essentially had to pass the kid.
it's so crazy to think though that some kids really they don't go home to love. Like they really, really don't. And I don't know who that kid is. And I know maybe they're listening to this. I have no idea. But it's one of those things where it's like not every kid goes home to love. I wasn't one of those kids. I don't think I had any type of parental affection or whatever. In fact, it was usually hell. But it was one of those things where it's like you got to imagine why. Like, did that parent just not want to take the kid to summer school? Did the parent why didn't the parent just ask the kid why? Like, what's going on? But I didn't understand those things. I had my children relatively young. I didn't have that understanding until my girls got older, but it took a lot of trial and error of understanding that. And then as I got older, I'm like, why didn't anybody ask me why? And I think you were really the only teacher who ever, no, it was just you. Whoever asked really, like, statistically, no, it really was just you. It's like, why? Just kind of like jazz hands. Why? Like, what is this? Like, you're completely functioning. Clearly, you're well spoken. We're having fucking why? And I remember one year, my father was yeah. He ended up. He's like, I will give you $100 if you just pass, so they stop calling me. And I was just like, $100? I got a 65. Just got over that hump. And I'm like,
there you go.
My money, please. Like, this is like, back then, it's good money.
Yeah.
Now that's like, what, a tank of gas?
I know. Well, there's a few reasons for that. And, but part of it goes back to the example that I had in Mr. Jensen, and the non-examples I had of a bunch of other teachers. Then I was a kid who should have had those questions asked of him as well. Why? And I've never forgotten that. Like my story growing up was not easy. I was rarely at one school long enough to give an adult a chance to ask those kinds of questions. But another reason is, one of the first things you learn in the child development class that you have to take when you're a teacher or when you're learning to be a teacher is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how humans can't function optimally if their biological needs and if their emotional needs aren't met. And that never left me. It made perfect sense to me because it spoke to who I was as a student. So, like, the idea that we teach subjects and not people is that's a form of art. That's a form of art to do, to teach bonkers. People. And I think I've always seen you guys as people. And I still, again, it's now I'm in an environment where content is on the back burner because it's I mean, I have kids who literally can't often function as they try to get through the day. Like if they come through the door, it's like, all right, you made it to school. Let's see how long you can stay today.
Yeah. I have some of my daughters have friends who they really struggle with a lot of that stuff. And I think that I don't know, maybe it was the fact that my mother had left when I was 3 and, I had my grandmother and stuff, but like having that lack of maternal figure it kind of, I don't know if it just triggered it, made it go further for me or something along those lines. And realistically, the paternal side of my father didn't really exist. It just didn't exist. It was pretty much just, you're on your own, kid. So it's kind of one of those things. And now there's, you know, I see some students that go to school with my daughters and they have those situations. And it's kind of interesting because I'll do career day, if you can imagine. Career day staff, and I've got a table. Like,
nice.
Oh yeah, it's funny. And it's, you know, I've become that parent that, like, the kids will show up in my house. I find them rummaging in my pantry like raccoons, which is fine. Like, I tell them all the time, like, y'all just come over if you need something, or, you know, as long as you're safe and your parents know where you are, if there's something, you know. And I've had them, like, contact me when they're concerned about, you know, maybe they've made a mistake. And I mean, we're talking teenagers make mistakes. That's just realistic.
Right.
And they feel, they're like, well, I feel comfortable, you know, talking to you about this. Or, you know, I had one of my daughter's friends, he walked off campus. He's just like, I can't, I'm having an anxiety attack. I can't. And his circumstances are quite extenuating. And I went and picked him up, and everyone's like, did you bring him home and punish him? And I'm like, took him to Taco Bell, got him some tacos, and we had some
punishment
tacos
in its own
tacos.
right.
I mean, everybody knew where he was. I made sure everybody was, I'm like, you need to make sure. And then, like,
yeah,
when he got in the car, he was just like, he apologized for walking off campus. And I'm like, we don't need to talk about that right now. Let's just go get you some tacos. So we went and got tacos, and he's like, I haven't had these in so long. You know, it's just not something we do. And I was like, it's good. So I went back and sat down, and we had a talk, and he just literally needed someone to just exist. Don't say anything, just exist. Just exist. Have tacos. And it's weird how much a kid will talk once you give him tacos.
That's true.
That wasn't in Dr. Spock's book or whatever.
No.
I don't know.
But if you think about it, like, phonetically, talk is in tacos. So
yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
Keep listening for the next part of this episode with Tom Guzzio. Visit www.whoischristineanyway.com for access to all the social media links and additional podcast episodes.